Welcome to the Presidential Brief. Today we're stepping into our time machine. The destination? The early years of none other than George Washington. Before the battles, before the presidency, who was the young man destined to become a founding father? Get ready for a journey to colonial Virginia, where our story begins. Born into the Virginia gentry in 1732, George was the first son of his father's second marriage. Picture vast tobacco fields, and you're in the right setting. While not the wealthiest of families, the Washingtons were comfortably off, part of the colonial elite. But George's life took a turn at age 11 when his father passed away, shaping his future in ways no one could have predicted. Without the funds for an education in England like many of his peers, George relied on local schooling and self-study. He showed an early knack for mathematics, which led him down the path of surveying. By his late teens, Washington was venturing into the wilderness, surveying lands for the wealthy Fairfax family. It was tough, but it taught him resilience, defining his life. Washington's surveying work introduced him to the frontier's harsh realities and sparked his interest in military affairs. By age 20, he was appointed as an official surveyor for Culpeper County, but his ambitions quickly turned toward military service. His first taste of military life came during the French and Indian War, where his efforts to defend British interests laid the groundwork for his future leadership. George Washington was crafting his identity through these early triumphs and trials. He faced personal and financial challenges, wrestling with the loss of family members and the management of his estate. Yet these experiences only fueled his determination to make his mark, setting the stage for the leader he would become. As we wrap up our glimpse into George Washington's early years, we see not just a future president, but a young man of ambition, resilience, and a growing sense of duty. These formative years laid the foundation for his journey to becoming a pivotal figure in American history. In this episode of the Presidential Brief, we embark on a journey through the trials, triumphs, and pivotal moments that propelled George Washington from a military hero to the first president of the United States. Strap in as we trace the path of leadership that led to the birth of a nation. As tensions between the colonies and Britain reached a boiling point, Washington's military prowess and leadership qualities shone. Appointed as the commander-in-chief of the Continental Army, he faced daunting odds. Yet, his resilience and strategic mind set the stage for American independence. The victory at Yorktown in 1781 marked the beginning of the end of British rule. But instead of seizing power, Washington did something remarkable. He resigned his commission and returned to Mount Vernon. This act of relinquishing power earned him even greater respect among his contemporaries. When it came time to choose a leader for the newly independent nation, there was unanimous agreement. George Washington was the man for the job. Despite his reluctance, he accepted the role, setting a precedent for presidential humility and service. As the first president, Washington was acutely aware that his actions would set precedents for the future. From establishing the first cabinet to navigating the nation's earliest foreign and domestic challenges, he crafted the blueprint for the American presidency. George Washington's journey to the presidency was marked by his unwavering dedication to American ideals and his conscious effort to mold the presidency with integrity and vision. In this chapter, we dive into the uncharted waters George Washington navigated as the first president of the United States. With no blueprint in hand, every step he took was a step into history. Let's explore how Washington set the standards for the presidency that still guide the nation. Understanding the enormity of his task, Washington created the first presidential cabinet. This wasn't just about delegating, it was about building a foundation of trust and advice that presidents still rely on today. From Thomas Jefferson to Alexander Hamilton, these were the minds shaping a new government. In a move to solidify the nation's legal system, Washington signed the Judiciary Act of 1789, establishing the federal judiciary. This pivotal act not only created the Supreme Court, but also set a precedent for the balance of power within the federal government. Perhaps one of Washington's most enduring legacies was his decision to step down after 2 terms. This self-imposed limit became a model of restraint and democracy, emphasizing the presidency as a position of service, not a seat of perpetual power. Facing international pressures, Washington issued the Neutrality Proclamation, steering the young nation clear of European conflicts. This policy of non-intervention set a course for American foreign policy, championing sovereignty and cautious engagement on the global stage. Through these actions and many others, George Washington didn't just fill a role, he sculpted it. His presidency laid down the bedrock on which the United States stands. Steering a newborn nation through untested waters, Washington encountered trials that tested his resolve and wisdom. Join us as we explore the challenges that defined his leadership. One of Washington's major domestic tests came with the Whiskey Rebellion. Faced with the nation's first significant tax protest, Washington had to balance the delicate act of asserting federal authority while maintaining the young republic's ideals. His decision to personally lead troops to quell the rebellion set a firm precedent for the rule of law. As political factions formed, Washington found himself in the middle of growing partisan divides. The emergence of the Federalists and Democratic Republicans tested his ability to remain impartial and keep the nation united. His farewell address warned against the dangers of political parties, highlighting his concern for national unity. Internationally, Washington faced the delicate task of establishing the United States on the world stage. His neutrality proclamation amid European conflicts, particularly the French Revolution, showcased his diplomatic acumen, but also invited criticism from those who favored intervention. The Jay Treaty with Britain was another contentious issue, aiming to settle outstanding conflicts and ensure trade. While it averted war, the treaty sparked intense debate, reflecting the challenges of navigating international diplomacy and domestic approval. Through these trials and more, Washington's presidency was a constant balancing act of power, principle, and patience. His leadership not only guided the United States through its formative years, but also left a legacy of governance that endures. In this final chapter of our journey with George Washington on the Presidential Brief, we spotlight the enduring legacy and share some intriguing tidbits about America's first president. Washington wasn't just a figure carved in stone, he was a man of depth, contradictions, and surprises. Let's dive into the legacy and the lesser-known aspects of his life. Washington's leadership style, characterized by integrity, bravery, and a sense of duty, set a high bar for those who followed in the presidency. His voluntary exit from power remains one of the most significant acts in the history of democratic governance, influencing leaders worldwide to this day. The first environmentalist? Did you know Washington was also a pioneering conservationist? He implemented crop rotation and innovative farming techniques at Mount Vernon, showing an early understanding of sustainable agriculture long before it became a global concern. Apart from leading a nation, Washington was quite the entrepreneur, owning one of the largest whiskey distilleries in early America. Yes, the founding father knew his spirits, adding a spirited chapter to his storied life. Beyond the cherry tree fable, Washington was a complex character, a man who sought to improve himself, embrace new ideas, and despite his stoic image, had a keen sense of humor. His diaries and letters reveal a deeply thoughtful, sometimes playful, personality. As we conclude our exploration of George Washington, we're reminded that history's giants are not just monuments of the past, but real people who shaped our world in countless ways. What aspects of Washington's life surprised you the most? Share your thoughts and join us next time on the Presidential Brief, as we uncover the stories of leaders who've shaped history, one presidency at a time. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more fascinating journeys through American history.